What I said from day one, you can sit aside and watch, you can argue against us all you want and protest all you want, but when you cross that line, I've said this 1,000 times, when you cross that line to impediment or knowingly harboring, concealing an illegal alien from ICE, you will be prosecuted.
Well, things are not looking too good for Judge Dugan. You know, the judge who was arrested by the FBI for obstructing ICE agents on trying to arrest an illegal immigrant during a court hearing. Well, if you're unaware, the Supreme Court of Wisconsin even just ordered that Judge Dugan is temporarily prohibited from exercising the powers of a circuit court judge in the state of Wisconsin. So let's go ahead and dig into this, because now there are some other new things coming out about Judge Dugan that many people are questioning.
This was found on her door, as we now know, April 14th. That was 4 days, Jonathan, before she had allegedly helped this illegal immigrant evade ICE agents. If any attorney, witness coordinator, or other court official knows or believes that a person feels unsafe coming to this courthouse to courtroom 615, please notify the branch clerk to request court appearance via Zoom. What does that tell you, this revelation?
Well, first of all, the judges probably can set Zoom hearings. It's in their discretion. I doubt that that alone would bring further legal action. But what Judge Dugan did here is far more direct and arguably criminal. You know, she got down from the bench and became part of what the law enforcement officials are saying is a pattern of illegality.
Now, the main complaint, especially from conservatives, is that this is not a common practice. If anything, this is more evidence to point in the favor of the FBI on a judge who is either politically biased or possibly trying to protect illegal immigrants. Again, if you want to leave your comments down below, I am really curious how you feel about this. I'm just trying to give you guys all of the perspectives. Now, one thing you'll also notice, not a lot of Democrats are talking about this judge too much. However, I did find one person who's willing to stand up for this judge.
This Friday, the Milwaukee mayor insisting that this is all, Jonathan, just showboating on the part of this administration.
Typically, when something like this happens, an indictment of a potential defendant is ordered. There'll be a court appearance. That didn't happen in this case. I think what happened here was just showboating. They're just trying to have this show of force, and in the process of doing this in a courthouse where people need to go for court proceedings, they're scaring people away from participating in the process.
Meanwhile, as I mentioned, that was happening live during this program on Friday. He was asked, pretty simple questions about this case, and he didn't have a lot of information. So why do they feel so compelled to come to the defense of this judge?
Now, here's where things are getting confusing. A lot of Democrats are sticking up for the judge, however, not for what she did. They're standing up for her because of how the FBI arrested the judge. That the Trump administration, they're turning this into a very big circus, a spectacle, and we don't get down with that. That is probably why we are not seeing the mugshot of the judge, by the way, a fear of fake news stories or altering the mugshot like we have already seen, but this is what CNN has to say about it.
Indicted a state prosecutor. I indicted a prosecutor, and I got a summons because I didn't want to make a spectacle. They made a spectacle of this case.
Well, they announced it on X as well, and then deleted it, but announced it on X.
Why wouldn't you want to make a spectacle of it? I mean, the fact of the matter is, there are liberal Democrat elected officials, not all judges, some are mayors and others, all over this country who have said repeatedly since Donald Trump became the president that they would like to obstruct his principles and his program when it comes to deporting illegal immigrants. Here you have this person. If these facts are proven true, obviously that's exactly what she was trying to do here. Why wouldn't you want to make...
Let me respond to that.
Why? Because
you asked me a question, let me respond.
Well, let me tell you my view. The spectacle is important because a message has to be sent to everybody else. We're not going to put up... You've been elected by people to uphold the law, and some of the laws that have been most flagrantly violated in this country are immigration laws. You've got to get on board with upholding all the laws, not just the ones you like.
Let me respond, Scott.
So please leave your comments down below how you feel about this. Is the Trump administration turning this into a spectacle? What I do want to point out is the Trump administration is sort of pointing to the judge and saying, no, you're turning this into a spectacle by your actions. I mean, here's what Pam Bondi has to say.
For you and Sandra, this was truly horrific. This guy was in court being prosecuted by a state prosecutor for domestic violence battery. He had beat up two people, a guy and a girl, beat the guy, hit the guy 30 times, knocked him to the ground, choked him, beat up a woman so badly they both had to go to the hospital. And John, you know, it's so rare for victims to want to cooperate. They wanted to cooperate. They were sitting in the courtroom with the state prosecutor. The judge learns that ICE was outside to get the guy because he had been deported in 2013, came back in our country, commits these crimes, charged with committing these crimes, victims in court. Judge finds out. She goes out in the hallway, screams at the immigration officers. She's furious, visibly shaken, upset, sends them off to talk to the chief judge. She comes back in the courtroom. You're not going to believe this. Takes the defendant and the defense attorney back in her chambers, takes them out a private exit and tells them to leave. While a state prosecutor and victims of domestic violence are sitting in the courtroom.
Now, I'm gonna be honest with you, I've never been to court, but I can only imagine just sitting there and watching this all unfold, and this is why the Trump administration, they are not taking any of the claims serious from Democrats, as if the FBI or the Trump administration, they're turning this into a circus, they're trying to showboat, especially when you start to hear what Pam Bondi has to say and how this all went down.
If they thought the first 100 days of chaos would break us, they were wrong. Because across this country, millions of us are standing up for our human rights and our democracy. Judges are fighting back to block these unconstitutional executive orders. Here in Congress,
So, it does look like the Trump administration, they are gearing up for more obstruction or more members of government getting a little more comfortable to start protecting illegal immigrants. I do want to point out, illegal immigrants, they do have certain constitutional rights, but here's what Tom Homan has to say for anybody who obstructs ICE or anyone who gets in the way of investigations.
If I can also answer your question, as far as the judges, look, we just arrested a judge, Pam Bondi, for impeding ICE enforcement removals. I said from day one, you don't have to support ICE's operations. You can support sanctuary cities if that's what you desire to do. Sanctuary cities can stand aside and watch ICE keep their communities safe. Because any public official, whether you're mayor, city councilman, or governor, their number one responsibility is protection of communities. And ICE has been clear, we're targeting public safety threats and national security threats. I can't believe there's any elected official, and especially a judge, that doesn't believe we should be doing that, and they should be helping us. But I said from day one, you can sit aside and watch, you can argue against us all you want and protest all you want, but when you cross that line, I've said this 1,000 times, when you cross that line to impediment, or knowingly harboring, concealing an illegal alien from ICE, you will be prosecuted.
And I actually do respect Tom Homan for saying you are entitled to your opinion. If you don't like what we're doing, that's fine, but you can't get in the way of an investigation. The problem for the Trump administration is that a lot of members of Congress or people who support illegal immigrants, they speak with generalities. We're going to do whatever it takes to protect illegal immigrants. So when you say whatever it takes, I mean, that could come off as anything. Is it legal or illegal when you say whatever? That is the problem the Trump administration seems to have with the wording of a lot of Democrats that want to do whatever it takes to protect an illegal immigrant, which is why Tom Homan is coming out with the warning now. If you're going to obstruct, no matter who you are, you will be arrested. So, as you can see, this is the governor of Maine. She's obviously a Democrat, but I just wanted to point out, when you speak in these generalities, it can be a little difficult to decipher how you are saying things or what exactly you mean, especially when you say, I will oppose Trump, especially if it harms my people.
All right, another judicial pushback against President Trump's immigration crackdown. This comes after dozens were arrested in January during Border Patrol's Operation Return to Sender, where agents rounded up people determined to have entered who were determined to have entered the country illegally. Yesterday, California District Judge Jennifer Thurston demanded CBP agents cannot arrest suspected illegal migrants without a warrant or reason to believe the person is a flight risk before they can get one.
Now, this popped up as I was filming this video, so we might as well talk about it. First and foremost, let's get a baseline. What exactly is the Fourth Amendment, if you're unaware? It's the right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures. Shall not be violated, and no warrant shall be issued, but upon probable cause supported by the oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the person or things to be seized. So, believe it or not, the reason why this could be a very big issue is because if you have illegal immigrants hanging out with American citizens, again, this is where the Trump administration says we have people impeding on the investigation, it could be very difficult for anyone to want to obtain a search warrant or to prove that that person is an illegal immigrant. Now, one thing I do want to point out, this might be the saving grace. There are a lot of people who do have walking papers. As far as search warrants, I don't know about that. But the number that's floated around there is like 1.2 to 2-ish million illegal immigrants have walking papers, yet they have not self-deported. So it's going to be rather interesting to see how this all plays out. Again, leave your comments down below how you feel about this.
Executive order in sanctuary cities is needed. I know a judge has just recently said, another district court judge who does a nationwide injunction, which I don't think they have authority to do. There's a reason they're called district court judges, but we're not going to stop doing what we're doing. The judges can issue these nationwide injunctions, but we're going to keep moving forward. The president's going to sign the executive order because sanctuary cities are sanctuaries for criminals. I'll give you one example. Laken Riley. She fought for her life for 17 minutes. If we didn't have a sanctuary city law in New York, ICE would have got him when he was arrested in New York. He never would have made it to Georgia. Laken Riley be studying today in the college, and her mother wouldn't have had to bury a daughter. That is one example out of thousands. So we're going to keep putting the pressure on sanctuary cities. We're not giving up.
Now, if you're unaware, we're probably going to start seeing some more interaction or more deportations occurring within sanctuary cities. In fact, California already got a warning on what exactly is about to be expected by the Trump administration.
He is the United States Attorney for the Central District of California. Welcome back. Thanks so much for being here. Yeah. Sanctuary cities, what does this mean for Southern California, for people living here?
Yeah, this notice today puts Southern California, in fact, the whole state of California, on legal notice. The state of California is a sanctuary state.
Right.
The state of California does not recognize ICE detainers, and which that does is it facilitates the release of criminal illegal immigrants back into the community. And that is what President Trump is taking aim at today.
So what does that look like? What is the administration going to do? What does that mean for you?
Yeah, well, I think what this order is focused on today is funding. One of the ways the federal government compels compliance with its policies is with money. So this executive order today is going to put them on notice, give them an opportunity to comply, and I think you're going to see the president and potentially Congress go after federal funding for states that refuse to honor ICE detainers. What my office is doing.
Now, I do want to point out a lot of this is speculation. However, this is a very big deal if the Trump administration officially wants to go into sanctuary cities. If they're already letting California know, just so you know, we're about to sign something that's going to get you guys in trouble. Now, here's what the Trump administration actually has to say about the situation, and they sort of give us a little insight on what to expect.
Is the administration planning to pursue any more investigations or prosecutions like was done against the judge in Wisconsin, against local officials?
Well, we'd have to defer you to the Department of Justice, obviously, for specific prosecutions or cases against individuals. But as I said in my remarks, the executive order the president will sign later this afternoon does direct the Attorney General and also Kristi Noem, our great Secretary of Homeland Security, to provide a list of sanctuary cities in which local officials are not complying with this federal order and are not complying with federal immigration laws. It's quite simple. Obey the law, respect the law, and don't obstruct federal immigration officials and law enforcement officials when they are simply trying to remove public safety threats from our nation's communities. The American public don't want illegal alien criminals in their communities. They made that quite clear on November 5th, and this administration is determined to enforce our nation's immigration laws, and we're happy to provide the text of that executive order, and as I said, the president will be signing it later this afternoon.
So there you go. We are back to square one. As you could see, the Trump administration, not only on the local level as far as arresting a judge for obstruction, they are taking it statewide. An entire state is put on notice. If you're going to house illegal immigrants, we are actually seeing that as obstruction, even if you are a sanctuary city. So we shall see what happens. I am really curious to see if we're going to see more protest, if we're going to see more obstruction, either legally or illegally. I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see. Thank you guys for everything. Thank you for being here. God bless, and we'll see you all later.